Hello everyone. Today we are getting into a brand new unit, and this unit is going to be all about quadratics, the characteristics of it, and then solving them. So far for this year we learned about linear functions, we learned about exponential functions. Now we're going to be learning about our third type of function, which is a quadratic function. And so for a quadratic function, what that looks like is you have this graph over here. The standard form of a quadratic function is ax squared plus bx plus c. You can also have y equals instead. And when you're graphing it, the graph of a quadratic function is a curve. And this curve is called a parabola. So you may hear it called a quadratic function, but when you're also looking at a graph, you may hear it also be called a parabola. And that's what it looks like right here. And so we also have several parts of a quadratic that we can find or identify. First, we have something called the vertex, and this is the highest or lowest point of a parabola, depending on whether it's opening up or whether it's opening down. So like in this example here, this graph is opening up. And so my vertex is at the lowest point here, and you see that's labeled here. So for instance, the vertex on this graph would be 2, -5. The axis of symmetry, on the other hand, this is the vertical line that goes through the vertex at the line of symmetry. In other words, it is the x value of the vertex. So here we see this axis of symmetry, this dashed line, and it always goes right through the vertex. And it's called the axis of symmetry because it's cutting this parabola in half. So if I were to fold this parabola in half, it'd be matching on either side. And so here the axis of symmetry is at x equals 2. So it's always the x value of your vertex. And then we have something called solutions, roots, zeros, x-intercepts. These all mean the same thing. You may hear either term be used, but just know they all mean the same thing. And this is where the parabola crosses the x-axis. So we have an x-intercept here and an x-intercept here. It's just where it crosses that x-axis out. So really, when we were in our last unit factoring and we were solving those quadratic equations, we were really finding these solutions, these roots. We were finding the x-intercepts of those functions. And then lastly, I may have you find the y-intercept, and this is where the graph crosses the y-axis. And it's also your c value when written in standard form. So for instance, if I had y equals 3x squared plus 2x minus 7, then that would mean that my y-intercept for this would be 0, -7. So it's always that last number.